Well, hello everybody. How are you doing today? I hope all is well. We have a wonderful guest, Andrew Miller. Honestly, we kind of just come right into it and just start chatting out of the gate. We didn't even do real formalities till a few minutes in, and I'm like, oh, Andrew, I don't really know where to cut this off. Can we just kind of give you a quick synopsis of who you are and we get going? It's all fun. Just, yeah, fair warning when you're getting into it. We kind of just jump everywhere. But it was very productive for me, and there's a lot of good nuggets if you're paying attention. Other than that, have a good one, and let's enjoy the show.
Welcome to the Josh Bolton Show, where we dive into interesting and inspiring conversations. And now, your host, Josh Bolton.
There he is.
It was what came in and it wouldn't let me do the video or the audio. It was just like
interesting. Interesting. Do you ever set to that, or is it just my settings?
Yours.
Probably. We'll just go with me. Yeah, we'll just go with me.
I think sometimes it's what bringing people into the room, because normally mine are open, but there's normally little buttons that says bring everybody in under mute and video off or whatever, but anyway, it doesn't matter. It was also working very slowly, so it was just like going press the button. Anyway, how are you?
Faster. Very good. And yourself?
Yeah, good, thank you. Yes.
Is it evening for you?
It is evening, yes. What are we are at 6 o'clock.
Oh, that's not bad at all.
I'll go for it. I booked sort of treble booked myself this afternoon and stuff, so I had to come out of one meeting to come into this and all this kind of stuff. You were in first, you get priority. So
heck yeah.
But what you it was 8 a.m. or something like that for you?
10 a.m. for me. You're close.
Okay. You California.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm trying to think what the house chef was there, but very good. A little bit more humane.
Yeah. So, what are your plans? Obviously, other than 3 meetings, what else do you have planned for today?
After this, food and watch telly until I go to bed.
What you going to watch on the telly?
I have no idea what we got going on. There's a couple of things that were on yesterday just to catch up with, and we're sort of working through Shameless as well.
That's an interesting series to get through.
There's an American one, I think, as well, isn't there? But this is the original English one. But we never saw it when it first came out, so we're
we Americans, we screw up a lot of things when we try to translate it to us.
Sometimes they work, you know. The Office, I think, was better in America apparently than it was in the English, but it was one.
I would say honestly, I haven't seen both, so I don't even know.
I hear it has good things, you know, whatever. But
my sister is. My sister is a diehard for that, and I've watched one episode, and I'm like, I don't get the humor. It's so dry, it's abrasive.
Is that the US version or the?
Yeah, that's the US version. I'm like, this is so dry, it's abrasive. I don't understand.
Probably the UK is even worse.
Probably. I'll be sitting there going why are they making jokes about pebbles in the rocks? It's like, what? I don't get it.
I've not seen the American one, but anyway, it can work, but it's like for like. But I don't really know what we're talking about today, to be honest.
That's what I was about to ask you too. Great minds think alike.
It's set it up and it's like, whoa, we can go wherever we want. I know your things about sort of marketing and or different ways and mindsets and that kind of stuff, but I don't know how prescriptive that is or what your sort of audience look like or anything like that. So we can kind of go where we want to go. But
let's go wherever we want to go. I'm loving your energy. I'm more marketing and business, but it's it was the easy pitch when I was first doing this to business owners. I didn't realize that's what I was doing. Now I'm just like, dude, if it's fun, let's just go down that route.
Marketing, are you generally with sort of small businesses, sort of, are they the typical things or?
I've talked to CEOs of publicly traded companies to small business owners. So it's just wherever, the full spectrum. My whole point of starting this whole show was kind of like the symbolic help my little self who was kind of entrepreneur but didn't know it, had no context what it meant. So it's here's a show to prove yes, you are an entrepreneur. But now it's let's have fun. Like literally 2 weeks ago, I talked to a guy about the multi-layer, like there's 6 worlds above us, 4 below us, like Hindu belief. And then he's talking about how planet Earth is a living, breathing creature. And I'm like, that's a very uncomfortable position if that living creature is that perfectly symmetrical.
Yeah, it's the biosphere, isn't it? And it breathes and it fluctuates and it moves and there's an organic element to it. And yeah.
And he's saying the global warming and this toxicity is a higher level frequency of the Mother Earth rising again. And I'm like, all right.
While we're on the subject, I mean, just my perspective on all these things is I'm always open to most of these things.
Me too.
And the way I always rationalize things, I'm a scientist-y type background, sort of stuff. So I've come from a very logical based background kind of stuff and evidence based and all that kind of stuff. And my general view on most things is there's a truth underneath it all, which probably could be proved with maths and science at some point, but we there's loads of stuff we can't prove with maths and science. So there's probably other universes and other things that we're connected with and all this sort of stuff. There's a deeper truth which basically we can't see, and it pops up every now and again in certain ways, and then people hang their own mystical bollocks on it, whichever suits them. And that's not to denounce that, because underlying it is a truth, but it's their way they see it and their way they perceive it, and it tells a story that makes sense to them, and that's all we do is we tell stories. And I might not get with the concept of the 7 earths above and 4 below or whatever, but there's a story in there which probably kind of makes sense if you get down to the bottom, and probably works to a certain extent.
If you think of like the archetypes, from all the different stuff, like Buddhism has a certain archetypes of higher powers, Hindu has a certain archetypes of powers, the Greek mythology does, so it's could be a similar structure of that. And that's one of the things I told him. I personally had my own experiences with near-death experience, taking way too much weed. I essentially like a gram of weed for an edible.
That means nothing to me, by the way. So
it's enough to take out a horse, essentially.
Okay, wow.
And I essentially just like had this terrible trip. Like I'm sitting in a white box above the Milky Way, looking down. And I told him my moment. I said when I can't snap to and could remember what was happening. Said it immediately hit like this game is way bigger than any human can comprehend, kind of thing.
And that's it. And if we can be comfortable with that and then say, right, okay, but who are we? Where are we? Let's bring the control back to us. Let's get our position right and put positive influence out to those that we can influence. We kind of don't need to worry about the bigger thing.
Exactly. Yeah, no, and that was the same for me. Once I realized, I'm like, there's so much more. Like our petty arguments about whatever going on, it's not even noise in the whole system of the whatever we want to call this. So that's having a very interesting psychedelic trip. Came to a realization. I'm like, okay,
yeah, worth doing.
don't do it like that again.
But yeah, excellent. Quick question as well: are you recording audio only or video too?
Yeah, just audio.
Yeah, okay, fine. Because the lighting's not brilliant here, so I could do something if I've got more lamps I could bring in if you wanted to make me look lovely.
Oh, I want to say I would lend you one of mine, but it would take forever to get to you.
Yeah, that's not good. I've got a lamp right here. I just got to plug it in.
But, it's all good. Yeah, I have mine on because I have this little like setup, so it's a light. But so, what do you specifically do for work? Like helping people out with?
I mean, if you want to put pigeonhole, I'm okay, a coach, we don't. But that put in that space. But so the brand is business enjoyment. Based on the concept that very often people go out and do the thing that they love at the heart of it, but then around it, all this other stuff happens. And we end up getting in a position we're not really enjoying what we do. Now, sometimes that's because we don't realize what running a business entails, and sometimes it's all our own fears and stuff suddenly come in, because when you're an entrepreneur, suddenly you've stepped out of the corporate environment, you've lost that protection, and suddenly all your own sort of mindsets and whatever crop up. So the key thing for me is that business is in society dictated to us that business is about making money, whereas the truth of the matter is that's the wrong measure. We should be finding other ways. If we're running our own business, we're enjoying what we do, that's more important. Money's part of it, but we should be getting a kick out of what we do and not worrying about things. So I work with people on the business side. I can work on the business side because I understand business, but I also understand people and get into sort of the beliefs and the deeper stuff as well. So therapy type stuff sometimes and whatever.
Interesting. So that's actually one thing, like for me, as I've talked to, like, I think last I checked, I'm 170 people now I've talked to. The biggest one is like the entrepreneur, like my whole thing is context. Like, again, they say enjoy the hustle and enjoy the grind, but they don't say what that means. And what I've kind of concluded is, like, when you're walking down the street, instead of constantly looking forward, enjoy the rock with the daisy in between it kind of thing. Yeah, you're still going forward, but enjoy the little small things in life. But the biggest one, as I've talked to people, is the entrepreneur, like, turn small business owner from corporate America. Well, they take the corporate America, whip them and make them do what you want and treat your employees like shit. But they don't realize their own employees are the greatest asset, and they're treating them like shit.
And the irony is that when those that step out to create their own business because they don't want to be treated like shit anymore, what we end up subconsciously doing is following the only patterns that we know, which was the work we've just stepped out of. So we end up treating ourselves like shit.
Yes.
Because that's all we know.
No, and that's one of those my thing I realize as I've talked to people, that's what I want to help people with, is you realize, like, I'm starting to realize this is not just in America, it's everywhere kind of thing. I'm probably, it's different in your side of the pond. I'm gonna say corporate America here is pretty brutal.
Yeah, I think it's improved. There's some brutal companies in this country, but I think the environment has shifted over the last 10 years. That's good. But we have a perception of America of the sort of entrepreneurial spirit and hey, we just get on and do stuff, and it doesn't matter if we get things wrong, we just keep plowing on, and I suspect that's, and not being affected by failure and just moving on and going through, and I suspect that's a bit of a myth. As well, but that's the perception we have.
Obviously, there is the underlying truth to that, but most of it is most entrepreneurs, when they hit their first failure, they just cry and go back to their other job.
Yeah,
the true heart, like thoroughbreds, they keep going and they live up to that stereotype. But no, most just quit and go back to whatever they were doing beforehand. No one wants to work out here anymore.
Whereas, so big thing for me is purpose. Mm-hmm. So if you get clear about what you're doing, why you're doing, who you're doing it for, what that is, then that continuing will happen. You won't give up at the first hurdle because it's important.
Right.
So
100%.
Stepping out of the corporate environment to go and set up your business because you don't like that is like kind of away from energy. It's like, okay, I don't want to be there, so I'm going to escape. Well, here's a solution to get me going with. Oh, don't like that anymore, come back. But being in business to do something that makes a difference that's important to you is a towards motivation, and that keeps you going.
Oh, 100%. I used to teach martial arts, and I honestly didn't make that much money, but it was the just helping someone understand the concepts of punching and this and that. And it was like that subtle, in doing that, I helped their self-esteem. Ironically, at that time, I had terrible self-esteem problems. But
what we need to learn, eh?
Hey, that's a good one. I've not heard it that way. But yeah, it was just funny because I grew up in here in America. I don't know about your side. We have like the normal people, the sheep. Then there's like the autistic spectrum, and like they're completely side. Well, in America, there's a middle where it's kind of like some of the sheep people, but some of the autistics are like, they don't know where to put us. I was in that the whole time. So I saw both spectrum of both people. And so when I went to go teach martial arts, because I grew up with the more autistic, slower people who can't communicate well, they were literally my classmates from like elementary. So I know how they talk and think. I literally only had like 10 clients near the end. And I was making like $600-700 a week cash. He just literally had me a stack of cash and just call it a week. And I was just one of those, now looking at, I'm like, wow, I really niched down on that, specifically catering to them. It sounds predatorial now as an adult to say it, but it's like I focused on the autistic.
But it's yeah, and marketing can very easily switch into a that target sort of, the language tends to be very predatory, doesn't it? And clinical, and who's your target market, who's your ideal client, what's the funnel, what's the whatever. And I get that, but the truth of the matter is who are the people you relate best to? Who are the people you understand most? Who is it the people you can really help and make a difference to? And you have the skills to be able to do that. It's exactly the same thing, just different language.
No, it is. And it's just, as a lot of people throughout the show has asked me, like, oh, who's your target audience? I'm like, honestly, I said it's everywhere now, but my predominant person I'm talking to is my younger self, which would be the young kid that's confused. He likes listening to shows. Would prefer a little more structure, but if we go off the rails and talk about Jesus and drugs, we can do that too.
It's all part of life.
Right. So, I mean, I'm just trying to think of what else we can get into. What projects are you working on lately?
Well, I've just done a TED talk out of interest.
Hey,
literally came online last night, so we're talking fresh off the block.
I want to send me a link. I'm going to watch it afterwards.
Yeah, I will do that now. Well, I think I'll stick it in the chat box, but it's not really fitting with marketing, but I stepped in for somebody else, so I had 11 days from do you want to do a TED talk to standing on stage.
Don't they have to like really plan for that and all that?
Well, I had wanted to do one and had drafted one up and practiced it and stuff anyway, so it wasn't like I was going total blank page, but it was a couple of years ago before when I did that. So link in the chat box anyway.
Perfect. And I'll put that in the description for everyone else who are like, well, I want to see this.
And it's not about what I talk about in terms of what we just sort of touched on things, and that life's about more than just money. That's the key thing. So that's what it talks.
I just actually had a talk with a real estate guy yesterday, and that's the biggest one we took from the whole chat. It's like money is nice and it's important, especially how we are economically, but it's not the thing to look for. It's how many lives can you impact while you're still alive.
Yeah. And I say, if marketing's your main thing, then we can have we can have a chat and a conversation about how it's done in a nice way, where it's not an effort, where it's not.
It's not creepy and predatorial.
Yeah, exactly. We just build on what we just talked about. No structure that conversation. Let's just get going and see where it goes. I'm happy to do that.
I want to say I'm down. I'll say at this point I'm recording. I love this 20 minutes that we're already at.
Yeah. Oh, feel free to snip things out and slot it in. I've done that a few times in mine.
Cool. You have your own show?
Yes. Yeah. I've got so many people booked up at the moment. I've sort of taken it off the platform and things. So I'm not taking on new guests. But
for your matchmaker?
Yeah. So it's called the Tingle Zone.
Interesting name.
Because my strap line is, I want you to enjoy your business so much it makes your bits tingle.
Oh, okay. Honestly, without context, I'm like, that sounds a little inappropriate.
That's the point. That does have a meaning, but anyway, I'll.
Is there like a meaning to the acronym of Tingle?
Yes. Yeah. So it does have the innuendo sense as well, and it was inspired by somebody who was actually a woman that came up with American female coach, and she had a very much more graphic phraseology for it.
What is it?
I went much more. Her phrase was, "Oh, I like that. It makes my vagina tingle." And I just take it a little bit more, British. But part of it was a marketing thing because, a lot of marketing is to the negative. What's the pain? What's the problem? And no one hears the solution kind of thing. And I did discover when I was early days of my coaching career, and it was very much a case of, hey, if you've got a problem, we can solve it. Me and the two of us worked together, and we had a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience. And if we didn't know it, we know people the answer. If you've got a problem, we can solve it. And when you market to problems, then people come to you when they've got a problem. And people only come to you when they've got really tried everything, and then and they've run out of options. So they came to you when the problem was difficult to solve. They had no money left to deal with it, and so on and so forth. So you ended up with difficult clients to deal with because they were coming to you with problems. So the negative language in the marketing was sort of drawing in the wrong kind of people. So I wanted to have something that was more positive. So it's like, well, because I think when I talk about business enjoyment, people go, well, I'm not miserable, therefore I'm okay. Well, actually, there's another echelon above that. If you're doing okay, well, why not do great? Mm-hmm. Why not feel great? And so I don't want you just to sort of be, yeah, I'm all right. That'll do. That's fine. Satisfactory. I want you to enjoy your business so much it makes your bits tingle. So it's taking up to another level. Now, then there's the acronymical element as well, which is when you do discover your purpose, your connection, what it is that you're doing, and you get so focused and driven by what it is you want to do, then enjoyment comes out as a consequence of it. It's a fundamental element. So you don't pursue enjoyment, you pursue your purpose, and you get into flow better, you feel better, all the rest of it, and you feel aligned. So we kind of, I assume you know this, but it's being shown now that we don't just think with our heads and our brains, we can also think with our heart and our stomach. There's sort of thinking muscles and all of these sort of areas. Intuition. But we do talk about thinking with our heart, thinking with our gut, and that kind of thing. But I call them, you think with your brain, you think with your tummy, you think with your soul. BTS, they're your bits. So when everything's all up, when everything lines up and you get this electrical current and this sort of warm tingle going through all up and down your body, because you've made that difference to that person. You've done the thing that's made you that younger self of your version of you that when you were a kid and you wanted to get going, and he's listened to that show and he's gone, oh my God, I get it. You get that warm, tingly feeling up and through your brain, through your tummy and your soul.
Yeah. That's too, okay. Now that you put it in that way, that's not inappropriate.
Yeah, but I do also want to get a little giggle out of it.
Oh, yes. It's no fun just to say it and then explain it instantly. You ruined the joke.
Yeah, exactly. That's in the book and all the rest of it. So, but it's a good grabber. So people go, oh, hello.
Well, hello. I want to say, if I found that just randomly looking through my podcast and be like, is this going to be like some weird perverted comedy about sex?
You tune in.
I tune in because what the hell is he going to talk about?
I was talking to business owners.
We're talking about tingly bits.
But yeah, so I speak to business owners of all sorts, find out how they got started, how they got going, what drove them, and ultimately what gives them their buzz, their why, why do they get out of bed in the morning, and in other words, what makes their bits tingle.
I feel like I'm going to put that as the title now.
Feel free.
You want to make your bits tingle? Oh my gosh. So then what's the biggest, pattern you see? Actually, I'm going to redirect to something you said earlier is good, peaceful, kind marketing, not the fear mongering. What are some of the tactics you use for that?
I mean,
I want to say that
some of it is explanation. So, I mean, one thing I will do is just get in front of groups of people and talk my message.
Okay.
I like the TED Talk as a sort of version of that, and just say, look, things can be different. This is how things are. And just to give you a quick run through what I cover in the toy. So I had a good job. I was being in the corporate days. I was a good job. I was respected by my peers. I was paid well and all the rest of it, but I was bloody miserable. Now Now that's me, but when I spoke to everybody else was in the same position. and you just realize, like, does anybody actually enjoy what they do? And when you think about it, you no one expects to enjoy their work.
Right.
And you have all these things like, hey, it's happy hump day, and thank if it's Friday, and it's the weekend, and all this sort of stuff. We're conditioned to hate Monday to Friday.
Live for the weekend.
Live for the weekend. And there are people who love their job for sure.
Oh, yeah.
But they're weird.
Those
strange sort of, that strange people over there who actually enjoy going to work in the morning. How was that sort of thing? So when you just think about that, it's like, well, that's not right. It's just not right. And then, like myself. So then I left and set up my own business in the coaching space. And just to context, by the way,
okay,
in the job I used to do, and this doesn't exist in America in the same way, it's very different in the UK. But I worked where I dealt with companies that had gone bust. So you've got your Chapter 11 situation, but in Chapter 11 thing, it very much stays with the directors, and it's a load of lawyers in the background just sort of drawing up papers and stuff. In UK, and the same in Canada as well, any Commonwealth country, when a company goes bust, the directors effectively get kicked out, and they get a firm of accountants to go in and run that business.
Interesting. Okay.
So I would be parachuted in, and then boom, you are in control of this company. You've got to trade this company, you've got to make it work, and you've got to sell it, and maximize the value, keep it together. You can work with the directors. You obviously use them because they've got the knowledge if they're not crooks, and very few of them are, by the way. You work
different
with
for
them,
America though.
Well, no, it was most businesses that go bust, because there are the crooks and there are the incompetents. Most of them are genuine people trying to do their best, who've got unfortunate circumstances that put them in awkward situations, and most of them like put all their money in, make sure everyone else is paid off after themselves, and so on and so forth, and then only at the last minute will they let it go, and then they feel bad about it, they get abused for it, they get criticism for it, all this sort of stuff. And anyway, that's what. So my job was running businesses, but it was in this very specific context. And when I've moved into the coaching space, it was to help people going through business failure, but help them deal with the emotional stress of it, the emotional side of it. So very much into that kind of psychological stuff. So they're getting advice on the business, but it's what's going on in the head that matters. So that was the first thing I did, sort of thing. But that's where I learned started learning how the brain thinks type thing, and how we react, and all the beliefs and the fears and all this sort of stuff, and got into therapies and that sort of stuff. But when I stepped out on my own, and then we touched on this before, is that suddenly, I'm exposed, and I've suddenly got to sell me and my stuff and convince people that what I do is good, but don't look like I'm greedy and nasty and trying to sell stuff, and all these fears start coming in, and then everybody else around me, because I'm trying to get my business off the ground, everyone else is like sort of like, how's it going? Have you thought about getting a job? Do you want to come back in? And you start worrying about stuff, and you see your savings going down, and then you start getting panicky and stressed, and then you start making the wrong decisions because you're using it for the wrong basis and all this sort of stuff. So you then get stressed as a result. And so you're doing the thing you love, but you're not enjoying it.
Right.
And then the flip side is you can have people really, 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 really successful, doing very well, and they're stressed to hell.
I've met a few of them. I actually know of a few multimillionaires, super successful, and it was just one of those offhandedly. The guy was in the same room with me for a while, and I just asked him, like, if you could, would you give up all your fortune to start over, clean slate, like right now? And he's like, yeah. He's like, at this point, he's like, I'm so unhappy. Everything's trying to like hurt me. He's like, I'd gladly give up my money beforehand, buy a nice little piece of land, and just live off the grid the rest of my life. I'd be so happy doing that. I'm like, so why don't you? He's like, that's a good question. I know, like, you can literally, as you say, you can run your company from your computer. Why don't you? Then you don't have to deal with people yelling at you either. And it's just one of those, you kind of sat there. I think he gave me $100 and just said, thank you. That's what I needed to hear. And walked away. It's like, well, shit. I was just trying to figure out what he was thinking.
Yeah. And that's it. And so, and those, and, you know, I've met similar people sort of thing. So these are sort of negative things, but they're my stories, they're my experiences, they're why I do what I do. And it's a representation of what's going on now. You know, as I say, if you don't enjoy your job, going out running your own business is stressful. And even if you make it successful, it's still stressful. Hang on a sec, something's wrong. How about a different way of doing things? So I can talk to my journey and what I've done and what I think is enjoyment's all about and what business success is all about. And this is and how I think it should be. And then talk to that. And then people are like, okay, that sounds something of interest. Let's have a conversation.
Yeah. No, and that's the biggest one. Like, I've come to realize it's just more presenting it in just like a presentation or a pamphlet, and just kind of like leave it there, let them mull over. If they have to take it home, let them take it home, kind of thing. But it's kind of like the intentionally not trying to push a sale is actually more effective than pushing a sale.
I've got a client I'm working with at the moment, and if you listen to this, hello. I'm not sure.
Hello, sir.
But she contacted me middle of last year and said she wanted to work with me, and then reminded me we'd actually had a conversation like a year before, which I'd completely forgotten about. She'd been referred in from somebody else, and I said, yeah, let's have a chat. Absolutely. Totally gratis, you know. Worked out where she was going, realized that here's some stuff you just need to get on with doing this. Just get your focus on doing this. Gave her some tips and suggestions and stuff, and got it really sort of it's clear and going right. And then just go and do that and get something working and all the rest of it. And didn't try and sell anything, didn't try and push anything, didn't try to didn't even set up a follow-up in that thing. It was just like, look, you know where I am. And yeah, 12 months later, she came back and said, I want to work with you. And picked up we've got a 12-month sort of agreement running.
That's awesome.
And it was because okay, good. I'd worked well with somebody who'd recommended me, so that's, you know, good quality service is always a good thing. But I didn't try and force anything. I just gave her value, like you did with your man.
Yeah.
You know, okay, you got paid £100 for it, but you know, sometimes they come back, sometimes they don't. Doesn't matter.
It doesn't, because the biggest one for me, like before the pandemic and California lockdowns, I used to go to the gym all the time, and it was just, I was an angry son of a bitch back then. It was so I would go to just exercise the demons, and it got to the point. There's one guy, like, honestly, like, he had the perfect Abercrombie and Fitch, like, dude of the year. Like, the women are just instantly getting wet looking at this guy. And he said, I'm more impressed with what you're doing with your strength than what I can do. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, because like I said, I was angry. So context, I was deadlifting 350 pounds, 10 sets, 10 reps. So he's like, I'm more impressed with that. But I'm like, dude, I'm fat. Like, I don't look, I literally, like, as I'm saying is like, there's two women in the back going, oh, kind of thing. And he's like, yeah, it's just annoying because they'll throw themselves at me. But he's like, but I want power like you. I said, well, get really pissed off, listen to Slipknot, and you'll be where I'm at.
But again, the question is, why does he want power?
Because I think he doesn't have power. Now, looking back at it, I think he felt like he had no power in his life. So he wanted to achieve something like that. I mean, it was just funny because, like, that was right before, like, here in California, specifically LA County, they were just like, oh my God, you go to the ice cream store, you have shame on you. You're going to like the 20-mile walk. Kind of, they're still doing it, and they're going to keep doing it for next 30 months, they said. I'm like, California's no mask now. In LA County, no. But yeah. I just think,
you know, because we you know, you're talking there about people criticizing about, you're having ice cream, and how people look becomes important. And so and it does tie into marketing, by the way. I will bring this back to marketing, don't we?
Okay.
But from an educational basis, from a growth base, we are effectively trained to attach our inner worth, in our value, to external results and external looks.
Right.
So you've passed the exam. Well done. You're a good boy. You're a good girl. You've done a good drawing. Drawing goes on the fridge. Good boy, good girl. Whatever. So we and parenting as well. The natural parenting is if you do such and such, then if you behave in this certain way, then you'll get a treat type thing. So it's not unconditional love. It's like it's very conditional. I will only love you if you be in a certain way, kind of thing that I dictate. So we end up handing over our responsibilities to other people. So like you're saying there, he felt he didn't have power, but he's worrying about what other people think. He's not actually just saying, well, who am I and what have I got and what's going on with. Whereas the reality is, if we can get comfortable with who we are and what we do and where we're going and who we are and the rest of it, and then we use what other people say as feedback, but don't take it personally, it's useful to take it. It might be valid. It might not be valid. We can look at it. We get curious about what that is. And then we decide whether what we're doing has an impact, whatever it might be. And that's what marketing is. It's let's do stuff. Let's do stuff that I know is good. Let's do stuff that I know, so I believe to be good, that's important to me, that's valuable to me, that I feel good with. And some people might like it and some people might not like it. And that's okay. I'm not going to take that personally. I'm just going to look at, see what happens and see whether that
works. Yeah.
Okay. Talk more in that space because people really like that. And I like talking about that. So great. Let's talk more about that then. Fantastic. There's a conversation in that space. And that's all marketing is, isn't it? It's test and measure, but a lot of it comes down from that taking things personally, which we're trained to do from a young age. That's where we get it wrong.
Oh, 100%. That's the one of the one CEO I had on. Air quote CEO. He's not the CEO, but and that's the biggest one. I told him, at least here, the school system is designed to make people good factory workers, but we're not in a factory working era anymore. Everything's automated. It's more, it's kind of like a renaissance. It's the age of letting people be creative, let them have more responsibilities, let them think for themselves instead of do as I say, you're a good year. In 30 years, maybe you can retire. Yeah. If we haven't ground you out already.
And, for those that, what do you call them, the sheep, the people that fit in with the system that can adapt to it. And again, it's not about the pass or failing of an exam, but what we're actually doing, where it has value, where it does have benefit, is that we are learning how to learn. Yes. Because the facts we learn at school are pretty much irrelevant unless there's something specific you're going into. Who really gives a monkeys about who could remember anything learned at school? But we've learned techniques and skills that we've then adapted and pulled through to later life, because now I can learn how to build a website because I've learned how to learn, and now I can do it through YouTube or books or whatever it might be. I can't build a website, by the way. I just use that as an example. I could if I wanted to.
If you wanted to. Enough of you teaching for dummy series, you'll got it.
Now, when you were talking about the autistic people or people who don't fit in with that system, that's where the system falls down, because actually the concept should still apply. It's for each individual to learn how they learn.
Right.
And then we can take that forward, and then you can flourish, and then you can do anything.
Well, I'm going to say it's one of those, hindsight looking back, that weird middle ground that I was in was actually exactly what I needed, because I could see both spectrums and realize they're literally taught to sit there, read books, force it in their head. When they test, they regurgitate it, but they don't retain it. I said, I'm you wanting the last part, you want to retain it more than anything else. And that's the funny thing is that middle one, they actually taught us both learn, consume, learn, regurgitate, and retain. But that was the middle spectrum. And it's one of those, I used to joke with my one buddy. I'm like, I wish people actually had this experience. Because I'm like, then we wouldn't be so lost. One of the teachers, she went above and beyond. It was not even a part of the American system. She taught us how to do a cash flow sheet.
Wow.
Right? She made it work because it was math.
Yeah.
But it was just that's one of those lessons where, I mean, my mom is a banker, so I've known about loans, the numbers, you don't want so much in this balance. Once she did the cash flow scene, I was just like, oh my gosh, I've literally been learning this since I was 6.
Because to be honest, with a business, you got your P&Ls and your balance sheets and that sort of thing, but really cash flow is all you need to make it work. If you can get that nailed, the rest is good, and it helps understand it and understanding you've got really largely the organization. The more important it is, the margin of each individual product, where it might be. But if you can nail your cash flow, you've got everything sorted, basically.
100%. That's the biggest one. I tell people, I'm like, man, if we could just teach people, I mean, whether you need Dave Ramsey or whatever, or even just like, I had actually a guy that came on, he is starting a startup where he's going to schools. I think it's like at tops $10 a student for the whole semester. He gives them a whole packet and they learn everything about cash flow. And he correlates it perfectly with whatever the curriculum, like the math or science, whatever. So the school can actually fund it. And it's just, I think the only thing the teachers or the students would have to pay is like the shipping. That's like the $5-10. I'm like, and I sat there, I'm like, even the poorest family in America, $5-10, that's not too bad.
Yeah.
And they're going to give them knowledge that is priceless.
Yeah. That's fabulous.
And I told him, like, dude, I wish I had you when I was their age. We time travel and you go back there.
But it's okay because you're okay now. And, you learned different things and other things through the process of having to learn it a different way. Mm-hmm. So you still gained.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I learned. For me, I think the biggest one, like touching on the learning to learn, for me, I realized I'm more of a kinesthetic person. Like you can't see it, but I'm spinning my pen to keep myself busy.
Yeah.
But I've learned like that's me. I was the annoying kid that would click his pencil nonstop, but I was a kinesthetic. I had to do something. So I used to think that was a bad thing, but now I realize, oh wait, that's how I learn. If I'm learning and I'm fidgeting, that means my brain's trying to process and solidify.
So how do you? So I get that point, but how do you take it to another level and actually incorporate kinesthesia into the learning process?
Well, okay, there's a long story to that. But essentially I was kind of diagnosed as ADHD and bipolar, borderline schizophrenic. So they had me on some heavy drugs. The kind like a doctor once told me, like, you're supposed to be in a clinic this kind of dosing. And I was like, ooh. So that give you a summary. So I was already like really emotional, confused. I'm seeing the devil come out of the corner and just ram his horse stick through the whatever thing. And I'm just sitting there going like, okay. But I realized when I was trying to process it, I would like fidget my hands like this. And at a certain point, people are like, what are you doing? Like, you don't do that. So I'm like, immediately, I'm like, oh, that's bad. I can't do that. So there's a certain extent, if I try to remember now, I don't remember because I was literally trying to sit still and do nothing. But now I realize like spinning my pen, that's not going to be annoying. It's not loud. It's like lightly tapping my fingers. It's not annoying. It's not loud. I'm like, and I retain a lot of.
What I mean is how to use it to your advantage rather than say, oh, it's okay. Have you found a way of learning which actually, this is how a kinesthetic person learns best? So for a visual person, we know videos and images and things like that. We can easily translate that. And an audio person, we can easily translate that. But I've got some ideas, but I'm intrigued to know from you. If you're a kinesthetic, how do you learn best? Because sitting there reading stuff and clicking your fingers isn't the best way of learning. That's just an indication. You should be doing something else.
Well, it's funny. It's like a type of dyslexia, but I don't like fully invert, but like the letters would jump around. So like I'm looking at Andrew Miller. If I stare at it too long, the N is going to go where your W is, and your W is going to go where your D is. It just kind of like alphabet soups it. Like I know what the word is, but if I stare at it too long, it starts like jumping around. So I realized I consume better through audio, and I just the thing I've always done, even at a young age, and I walk. So as this last 2 years of work, I've been playing podcasts and listening to audiobooks, and this stuff is solidified.
So it works better because you're moving and walking and going things. Yeah. One thing, because I'm a bit of a kinesthetic as well, and I remember at university what I used to do. So this is maths, very numbers driven, very detail and written and stuff and whatever. But I shared a room, not room, let's get that right. Shared a house. Sharing a room would be dodgy. Shared a house with some other people on the course.
Well, see how this conversation's going. That's not too dodgy anymore.
Nothing wrong with sharing a room anyway.
He was quite warm.
I know the people you don't, so you know. But when we were practicing and trying to get the things ingrained for the exam stuff, we would spit battle proofs, like talk them to each other. So
I thought you were literally
yeah, no, like rap battle kind of thing, you know, whatever. So right, give me the proof of this, and it's like, and you do it verbally out loud. So rather than thinking it or writing it or whatever, actually speak it out there. So it's much more all the body involved, and enter in debate and discussion or whatever it is, but using other people to create a more of an energetic environment to sort of, and it retained, because I was kind of been at that learn, teach. When you teach people, then you learn it more as well. So by remembering it that way, I found it much more better way of learning was by using other people and integrating that sort of, you know, speaking it to them basically.
Yeah, that's very similar to how I picked up on it. I just realized my camera angle. Sorry, that was just me. But it's just one of those. I'm like, why am I staring at my fish tank when I'm staring at Andrew? But yeah, that's the biggest one for me is like when they had a group project and they pretty much put us in front of the group and be like, okay, now you have to incorporate so-and-so. I realized that like I wasn't moving, but it's because I had to like point, okay, you do this, you do that. I just hit my mic. You do this. It's one of those, I did great. And it actually, I think my last time I did it was in econ in high school. And the funny thing, the econ teacher, classic stereotypical economics teacher, like, hello class, today we're going to talk about, and you're just like, shoot me. But at the end of the semester, he pretty much pulled me aside and like, it was the yearbook. So we're all running around trying to get the hot chicks to write in our yearbooks. And he pretty much pulled me aside and said, hey, you know, I know it's your last day on the campus, but I want to just tell you something. I see great success for you. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, what do you mean? He said, oh, I see you more as you're either going to be a legendary drug dealer, a kingpin of that, or you're going to be a director / CEO of a very profitable company. I'm like, okay, wait, isn't one illegal and one's not? He's like, that's subjective. I'm like, I don't like this one. I don't want to go over here now. Now as I'm thinking about, man, that was a deep meta joke right there.
Yeah, and it ended up being the drug dealer. So there you go.
Well, yeah, I'm dealing out. What is it? Dealing out good knowledge. There we go.
There we go. Yeah, the drug of learning. Nice.
But as like different things have been coming up, I'm like, wow, he really called it, because like one of my coworkers have pretty much said, like, dude, if you actually open a company, you're gonna be a freaking beast, and everyone's gonna be like fighting to stay with you too. I'm like,
did was it sort of thing where did they say why you would? Did you understand what you were good at? That's basically what.
Oh, there we go. Well, I'm a strategist. I now, like, again, hindsight's looking back, but I've always been able to see the very macro picture, but also see what the micro is going on, and then correlate the two and make it work. Like a perfect example is one of the ladies was having trouble figuring out how to get her group project going. So he was watching, and I was the guy that got all my homework done within 10 minutes. And I was not even an overachiever. And I just sit there and just be like, la, 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 la. So he sent me over to help her. And I pretty much told her, I'm like, okay, so you need this, you need to help with this tab, work on 3, bring it back to 1. And it was a perfect playbook. And out of principle, because she didn't actually do it, I told her what to do. He gave her an A-. And I was like, dude, come on, you could have gave her an A+. That was good. But it was explain how to make the corporate system work more efficient. And look, like how I explained is saying, set up little teams or not even departments, like teams within the department, and say, you are in charge of this. Whoever your leader is the one that's going to take the blame. So don't let them down. And then they report up to me. And that's actually the system that a lot of business owners are realizing is like, make it a little tribe, get one person in charge to make sure the cats don't run everywhere, and just let them go. If they need anything, go buy them whatever products, make sure they get what they need, and just let them do their thing.
And for me, when you're talking, and you said it a few times, is that when I've asked about what you remember at the time, what it was, but you said with hindsight, it's this. With hindsight, I realized what my strengths were, sort of thing. And you've talked about patterns as well. And I think that's very important for business owners, entrepreneurs, is that we to start off with, we have to be, when it's just us, we have to be everything, everyone to everything to everyone kind of thing. But I think part of the business journey is looking at the patterns, looking at what we're good at, and finding who we are. Discovering that. If we haven't got it already, then actually running a business is a great way of discovering self.
100%.
And those patterns that you had as a kid are just as applicable as the patterns that you run now. So again, the whole point about marketing at the end of the day is being the right person to the right solver of the right problem, if you know what I mean. So who are those people, like we were saying earlier on with who are the people that I can really help, and I'm the best person to help them, and I'm going to get a buzz out of helping them, and we're all good, win-win. We can only really do that when we really understand ourselves.
100%. I'm just looking at the time. I actually got someone at 11. So, Andrew, we definitely got to do this again. 3 going out questions. Other than work, what have you been doing to keep yourself busy during these COVID times?
That's a good question. What have I done? I can't remember. Watch lots of telly.
I was going to say, watching TV.
What's loads? We had so much stuff backed up and recorded before COVID, and we got it all done. And we ran through things like Buffy and Angel again. And I've watched The Sopranos now. I never watched The Sopranos. Finally got around to seeing that. Just finished that. So watch the TV. Kept the gym up. Kept going to the gym. Got a personal trainer. I think there was a period where it was shut down, but we managed to keep that going. But to be honest, I've enjoyed lockdown.
I have too.
I can run a business from a computer, and I'm happy staying in.
The only time you go out is to get some a fancy meal with the partner, and then just be like, all right, I'm done. I'm going home now.
Go shopping, whatever it might be,
That's awesome. So what are some tips, tricks, or advice for someone aspiring to be like you, a successful businessman and a coach, you give them to start down that path?
Well, we've touched on one of them. I just reiterate it is right. Find yourself, if that's what I mean. The journey of business is a journey of self. So it's never about getting things right or wrong. It's just exploration. It's discovery. Get clear about why you're doing what you're doing. What's it for? What really sets you light? And the trick is, and again, but you alluded it right early on, is what is that version of what's that younger version of yourself that really is the one that you want to help?
Oh yeah.
Because in most cases, that's where our purpose lies, is helping that younger version of ourselves that's out there now.
Right. Or like a second cousin or something that you're really fond of, but there's always that one person in your life that may not be here, but you're always looking back at that one to make sure they're okay.
Yeah. And it's the people out there now that you see them in you, or that person in those people, and you can help them and know it will make a difference because you know how much it mattered.
Right.
And then just watch out for the trap. So the things that drive us are the things that hold us back at the same time. So 3 things that drive us, or create the fear, I should say, but they also act to drive, so it works both ways. But most of us are driven by some form of fear of 1, not having enough, 2, not being enough, or 3, not being accepted. And it's worth understanding which one of those is the big. We've got a little bit of all of them in many ways, but which is the one that really stands out? Because one, that's a field that holds you back, but also when you tap into it and really work with it, you realize that that's also where your superpower lies.
Yes, that's the biggest one I've recently come to. Is it's just that. So, where can everyone contact you?
Just jump to my website, businessenjoyment.com.
All right.
There, if you want to find out a bit more about the business enjoyment model, about my ethos and that kind of thing, there's a little pop-up that will come up and you can download the book, More Than Just Money. That means I have your email.
Careful, don't over email him. This one guy asked for a Kartra email. He blew me up 12 emails in under an hour. I was like, no, I instantly had unsubscribe.
You get about 4 over like a 2-week period, and then
that's not bad at all.
Occasionally get around to doing a newsletter. So it's just one thing I get that comes out as a business cheat sheet. So everything you need to know about business on one side of A4, which is an extra little thing which gets mentioned in the book. But anyway, so the book also allows you to use the model I have to find a solution to pretty much any problem, which is an interesting concept. So
nice.
But anyway, businessenjoyment.com. And I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook as well. But
cool. Yeah, we'll send them all that.
And all that sort of stuff. It's all on there.
Do you have a TikTok or no?
No. I don't do Instagram. It's just Facebook, LinkedIn, a little. I'm on Twitter, but I don't do it.
No, same here. I'm on Twitter just so I have the handle, but I don't really use it.
I did try and I made a concerted effort to get into social media a couple of years ago. Did it enough to know I didn't want to do much more of it and stepped away.
Right. For me, I get fear of missing out heavy. So I'm like, I'm good. All right. Awesome. This has been an absolute blast and a pleasure.
Thank you very much for having me on, and I look forward to catching up with you soon.
Me too. Well, congratulations. You made it to the end. You're an awesome person. Not many make it here. So, being the awesome person that you are, can you do me one more awesome favor? Can you rate and review this on whatever podcast services you're using? If you do it on Apple, and you leave an actual written review, I have a thing on my website. I will take your written review and post it for all to see. Congratulations, you're permanently sealed on my site. Otherwise, I am trying to do YouTube more and live streaming. I will try to put as many of the YouTube links in the description of the show as I can. So give your boy some extra help over on YouTube. Watch my videos. I just mute it and change the channel. Change the window or something. But yeah, that's it. Thank you for being awesome, and see you next time.